It turned into the race to watch on election night. Glenda Ritz pulls an upset on State Superintendent of Public Instruction Tony Bennett. Teachers made their voices heard in the race, and today we're talking with Ritz about where she takes education in Indiana from here on this edition of Indianapolis This Week.
From RTV6, Indianapolis This Week.
And welcome to this edition of Indianapolis This Week. I'm Todd Connor. A stunning upset in the eyes of many on election night. Democrat Glenda Ritz defeated incumbent Republican Tony Bennett by 6 percentage points to become the state's next superintendent of public instruction. Ritz spent 33 years as a teacher in the Washington Township School District in Indianapolis. She ran a grassroots campaign with support from unions, teachers, and parents. Among the biggest changes, she promised voters no more tax dollars spent on for-profit corporations to run Indiana schools.
I'm sure I'm going to have to be working with people to be sure that we have some things in place to move forward. I know I'm going to have a meeting with Arnie Duncan to talk about the waiver that was written because we need to have a different direction. So I need to find out about that and see how we're going to move forward.
All right, and joining us now is Glenda Ritz, State Superintendent-elect of Public Instruction. And Glenda, thank you very much for being here. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
It's been a whirlwind, I'm sure. Before the election, if we can take you back there for a second, I mean, the race looked close, but nobody really had you winning by 6 points, I don't think. I don't know what you thought. But...
Well, I actually was confident I was going to win about a month out. I'd been around the state, and I could see the energy. We knew our social media was strong. We knew we had some, the last week we had planned to have a full blitz in terms of media and being on cable and phoning and nano-targeting actually on the computer. And social media was just going crazy. So I was confident that we were going to be winning.
You were the Democratic star of election night.
Well, thank you.
I mean, a lot of people didn't look for you necessarily to be the one to look for that night, but you were it, apparently.
Yeah, I'm pleased to be the next superintendent.
Well, in that position, once you take that position, what's your #1 focus if you had to pick from a variety that are out there? I know you want.
Well, actually, it's a focus I'm already starting on during our transition. I'm going to be reorganizing the Department of Education and putting in outreach coordinators in various regions in the state. And I'm busy getting that organization complete so that we can get those regional coordinators in place when I take office. I want to have that bottom-up support for the school districts and really find out about the strengths and the challenges.
So what will a regional coordinator do to help the entire state?
Well, the regional coordinators are going to be, first of all, there's going to be 9. I'm hoping to have 9 in conjunction with the education service centers that are already established in the state. 1976, the legislature established service centers to pool resources, have some efficiency going on with having resources and professional development offered to the school districts. So I'm going to fit those coordinators right in that same model, and the coordinators are going to start with assessment of the school districts and schools and finding out the strengths and the challenges. Then we're going to have a lot of regular meetings, obviously, to see how the Department of Education is actually going to be supporting those schools with their challenges.
And taxpayers, I can see right now, are already going to say, okay, this is going to cost some money. Where's the money coming from? Where are we going to take it away from to get these regional coordinators in place?
Actually, it's not going to cost any money. It's going to be within the organization structure that's already in place. So I'm just taking what's already there and reorganizing it. There won't be any additional cost to the regional coordinators.
You say you want to change the A through F grading system for the schools as well. You said you wanted to simplify it, I believe. How much more simple can you get than A through F?
Well, it's the method by which you are doing the grading that I'm really talking about. And starting first with putting in some simple growth assessments to show true performance levels of our students, and then using that as the basis for which we will go forward to create an assessment model. So whether it's an actual letter grade A through F, you know, we need to change the system by which the grades are derived. And I'd like to actually change the actual grades of the, you know, that you do. I had a young man come up to me when we did the first implementation of the A to F and actually say to me, you know, Mrs. Ritz, I came from an F school, and I've spent my time talking with colleges, entrance colleges, and basically saying, I'm not a failure. I have a 3.7 grade average, but I'm coming from an F school. So I think we need to have some serious talk about, you know, we're not just giving schools a grade, we're actually labeling the students and the people that work in the schools.
You also want to deal with the I-STEP tests? You don't think that's the right way to go
Well,
about?
it's a pass-fail model.
Yeah.
And we have to keep the I-STEP test around for a little while because we have to figure out what kind of standards we want to have in place and making sure that we're going to be in aligned. And so I-STEP's not going to go away like right away, but I want to put in place
Not right away, but
yeah,
down the road you can see it going
well,
away?
I hope that in the future we'll get to the point where we just have growth measures, and that's what we'll need to really show the true performance levels of the students.
Have you spoken to Superintendent Bennett yet?
I have on election night when he conceded the race. I have a meeting set up with him. I believe I'm going to be meeting with him soon, like the first week of December.
Okay.
We've already had some contact with his office in terms of transition, and I've met with many leadership in the legislature already. So I'm getting my feet wet and making sure that everybody knows me as an educator, because I really will be talking about what happens in the classroom.
Do you expect a smooth transition
I do.
with the superintendent?
I do. Yes, I do. And he offered that to me on election night.
One other thing, Governor-elect Pence has said he will continue with education reform. How much do you expect to be able to work with the soon-to-be governor?
Already met with Governor-elect, and we had a pleasant conversation. Our first talk was about career and tech opportunities for students, and so I look forward to that because some of the outreach programs that I'm going to put in place are going to be working with communities to get in place those coursework that kids will need to be able to have college and career prep ready. We're also going to be working with mayors. We're going to be working with city councils. We're going to be working with community supports to make sure that our schools are addressing their challenges.
All right, Glenda Ritz, Superintendent-elect of Public Instruction, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you very much.
I appreciate it. All right, thank you. Pretty soon, lawmakers will be back in Washington, and priority number one will be a deal over the fiscal cliff to keep it from happening. After the break, we are sitting down with an expert on what so many families in Indiana are already facing with tightening budgets. Right now, Congress is in recess, preparing to get back to Washington, D.C. and back to work. Issue number one, when they do get back, the looming fiscal cliff and the threat of taxes going up by thousands of dollars for each family if no action is taken. Leaders in Congress and the president have had one sit-down meeting to launch negotiations, and while the talk has eased nerves, there are still many differences between the two sides. If Congress doesn't act, $650 billion in spending cuts and tax increases will go into effect on January 1st. That will affect every American taxpayer. Still, both sides are keeping a positive tone.
And I believe that the framework that I've outlined in our meeting today is consistent with the president's a call for a fair and balanced approach. To show our seriousness, we've put revenue on the table.
We feel we understand what the problem is, and I feel very good about what we were able to talk about in there. We have the cornerstones of being able to work something out.
Joining us now is Derek Thomas from the Indiana Institute for Working Families. Mr. Thomas is a senior policy analyst with the Institute. And Mr. Thomas, first of all, thank you for being here. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
First of all, I guess, explain to the viewers what your Institute does, what your work is geared toward.
Okay, so the Indiana Institute for Working Families is focused on data-driven research to promote and advocate policies that help Hoosiers reach self-sufficiency. So that is the ability to care for themselves independently without the help of government supports, essentially moving folks into the middle class.
And they may or may not be working families, is that right, or looking for a job, or they may already have a job?
Typically, we're concerned with families who are working, right?
So we're talking a little bit about the fiscal cliff. The beginning of the year, if Congress doesn't act, we're going to see tax increases and spending cuts.
That's right.
And it's going to affect everybody.
That's right.
Have you looked ahead to see how it might affect your people that you're working with? I mean,
we unfortunately haven't been able to do much analysis on the coming fiscal cliff, but we are concerned about the budget cuts as well as the tax increases on working families.
Because your people are, I would imagine, living paycheck to paycheck, the ones you're interested in trying to move forward, yeah?
That's right. That's actually 1/3 of the state. That's 2.24 million Hoosiers who are below 200% of the federal poverty guideline. That's generally considered to be self-sufficient.
Give me an example of a family or an individual with a family who might be falling into that. What are they making per hour? Or what?
They're making anywhere from, well, the median wage in Indiana right now, I think is just a little over $15 an hour, and that's about 41st in the nation, I think, as far as wages go.
You deal a little bit with your institute with the cliff effect.
That's right.
And what do you mean by the cliff effect?
So the cliff effect is the unintended consequences in some of our policy design. And what it's doing is it's actually acting as a barrier to economic mobility, to upward mobility, to move into the middle class. And it's discouraging employment, really. So what happens is with the cliff effect is a small increase in earnings results in a large loss of public benefits and higher taxes.
You explained to me before we came on camera how somebody making $15 an hour, for instance, they get bumped up with a raise to $15.50 an hour, could actually take them back as opposed to moving them up. How so?
That's right. So first of all, the cliff effect applies broadly to a number of public support programs. So LIHEAP, energy assistance, SNAP, child care subsidies, and Hoosier HealthWise. There are a few programs such as the Earned Income Tax Credit that are designed to phase out gradually. And that's how those programs should be working. And we also looked at 7 different counties across Indiana to see what that looks like. And for Marion County, for example, a single parent of 2 children who's working, doing everything that she's supposed to do, playing by the rules. She goes from $15 to $15.50 per hour, and she loses almost $8,500 in child care subsidies. And that's more than 25% of her annual resources. So that 50-cent pay cost her, it really cost her. And this is actually something that so the choice for her now, or that single parent, or even 2-parent families, is to either stay at home with the children or go back to work under those circumstances. And with child care costs in Indiana being the 10th highest in the nation as a percentage of income, the latter choice, to stay at home, is most often the most economical choice. And this affects 2.24 million Hoosiers that are below levels of self-sufficiency. That's a third of our state. That's almost 500,000 families.
So ultimately, this keeps the strain on our government-funded programs, I guess,
right,
for those who aren't making a lot of money or who need a little extra help. Because instead of lowering the amount of money that might go to her from the government, it's actually, she decides maybe to stay home, like you said.
That's right.
And continue to get the government support.
Our tax dollars are not working as they should be. And what we're seeing is that year after year, Indiana, is just like all the other Rust Belt states that saw the post-industry decline, right? But in Indiana, we've seen the second largest decline in median wages. We've seen the 6th highest increases in poverty over the last decade. More of our jobs are low wage than all of our neighbors, including Wisconsin, the Midwestern average, and the U.S. average. So when you have that gap between wages and the cost of goods, you need support. You need public supports to sort of get you up there. And we want those programs to basically just phase out gradually. And what that would do is provide the most basic incentive for hard work. That is, a raise equals an increase in net resources.
All right, and this takes the state and federal government to help you?
It largely takes the state government. So there are we have a number of recommendations in our report. Again, the most important is to smooth out that cliff, but we can get a lot of that done at the state. They have broad flexibility as far as how these programs are designed.
Derek Thomas, thank you very much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks so much for having us.
All right. Well, the State House is getting organized and ready for the next session. Plus, Governor Mitch Daniels passes a critical decision to the man who will soon fill his position. Our political insiders weigh in. Indiana will not participate in the health insurance exchange program. Governor Daniels forwarded Governor-elect Mike Pence's recommendation to the federal government when the deadline was reached. Daniels received a letter from Pence last week stating his position on the issue. Pence says the exchanges would cost the state too much. Daniels declined to make the decision on his own, saying that should be up to Governor-elect Pence.
He and the next administration are the people who will be saddled with dealing with the new law, and I felt the only responsible course for me was to leave the decision to whoever got elected, not to make a decision that someone else had to implement and live with the consequences of.
And joining us now are two of our political insiders, Democrat Laura Beck and editor of IndyPolitics.org, Abdul Hakim Shabazz. And that big decision just recently came down. Who's going to benefit, or are we all going to benefit by Governor-elect Pence's decision that he doesn't want to be a part of this program?
Well, one of the things to keep in mind is that the governor said early on that whoever became governor, whether it was Mike Pence, John Gregg, or Rupert Boneham, he would honor their decision because the next governor was going to have to, deal with the Barack Obama administration.
In fact, he met with them before.
Yeah, he met with them before to get all their thoughts. Mike Pence is being consistent with the position that he's held from day one, is that he's just not a big fan of, sort of the big quote-unquote Obamacare, healthcare plan. I think Indiana does a really good job with its Healthy Indiana plan and some of the other things covering, Hoosiers who can't afford Medicaid but also can't get, health insurance through their job. So Mike is being very consistent.
So he wants to stay with the Healthy Indiana plan.
I think that if he had to druthers, that's what they would stay with. Now, whether they'll be able to, in the grand scheme of things, that still remains to be seen.
I think what's so interesting is, Governor Daniels, it's the classic kick the can down the road, let the other guy deal with it, which I think is there are going to be a host of issues the other guy is going to have to deal with when Governor-elect Pence comes in. But
like a great economy, budget.
Oh, well, we'll talk about this later.
Abdul.
Oh, boy.
We can talk about it now.
And really, I haven't had a chance to wish you both a happy Thanksgiving, and a happy Thanksgiving weekend. But nonetheless, I think what's interesting about it, too, is that we all are going to benefit from the health care, Obamacare, which I'm a proud supporter of. I have a pre-existing condition. I can't get health insurance on my own. And so when this comes into play, I will be able to do so. I do agree with Abdul that that Governor-elect Pence is being consistent with what he said during the campaign, and I don't think that's a campaign promise he can go back on. I do think it's always interesting when the big detractors of big government, just say, oh, hey, let the federal government run it. So I think that it remains to be seen how it's all going to come together. But I do think at the end of the day, if more people are covered with health insurance, that's a good thing, especially in Indiana, where we smoke and we have a very high obesity rate. So these are good things for our state.
Organization Day this week for the General Assembly. 2 supermajorities. I mean, my gosh. Democrats going to get anything done, or are they just going to get steamrolled? Well,
I don't know if I'd say they're going to get steamrolled. I think things are going to get done because it was very clear in both House and Senate, both leaders said bipartisanship is the tone, and they want to set that tone.
You think that's going to last?
Well, I think I think in some ways it will, because I think their biggest problem is themselves. You have members of both the Republican caucuses that are very conservative and do want to push social issues. So it's really going to be challenging, I think, for these leaders and to keep their caucuses in line, because it's very quickly for things to get out quickly, like they did with Representative Morris last year in his attack on the Girl Scouts.
But one of the things to keep in mind is, and I would agree with Laura 100%, had one thing happened, had Richard Murdoch won the United States Senate race, that would have emboldened a lot of people with a far-right agenda that makes you like, whoa, guys, you need to scale that back a little bit. Scares even people like me. But the fact that, Richard Murdoch lost, that has been sort of the modifying factor. I mean, I found out this week that when House Speaker Brian Boswell was in caucus, he told his caucus there will be no hard right turns. He talked to a lot of the guys in leadership who've been around the State House for a while, who are more the seasoned veterans. They point to the younger guys and say, hey, look, young men and women, as quickly as we came here, as quickly as it can all be taken away, look what happened with Richard Murdoch. That's why I don't think, and matter of fact, I'm willing to go on a limb right now and say that, a marriage amendment only has probably a 50-50 chance of getting out of the legislature, because nobody wants to be bothered with that stuff.
We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see.
I'll qualify that.
Does the governor have that kind of control in the last 15 seconds we have? Does he have that kind of control over his members?
I would argue the speaker always has control.
Yeah.
It remains to be seen.
And we'll find out beginning in January, I guess.
We will.
All right, Laura, Abdul.
Thank you.
Thank you as always for being here, and have a happy Thanksgiving rest of your weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right. Make sure to stay up to date on political news anytime by following our insiders, Laura, Robert, Kip, and Abdul, on our Capitol Watch blog. You can find the link on our webpage, theindychannel.com. Indianapolis This Week continues right after the break. It is the season for giving, and you can really make a difference in putting a smile on a child's face. This year, RTV6 Toy Drive is underway to help thousands of Hoosier children receive gifts on Christmas. Last year, we were able to collect more than 10,000 toys through the 3-week campaign. That served nearly 6,000 children during a 2-day distribution. And joining us now are Greg Sider with AAA Insurance, a proud partner in the Toy Drive, and Russell Hollis, the Deputy Trustee of Warren Township. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you. You're welcome.
AAA has a proud history of supporting the RTV6 Toy Drive. Tell us, why you're a part of this, what you get out of it.
We do. This is our 6th year, actually. It's hard to believe of being the sponsor. And you know, really, it's more about reaching out into the community and giving back. This is a wonderful chance for us to really engage with families who are in need, and especially children. And around the holidays, who can't be sympathetic to children who certainly need a little bit more to make them happy and see those smiles on Christmas Day. So AAA Insurance is really reaching out and giving back, and we're very happy to be involved in this.
I spent some time out at your place in Carmel, and I see lots of smiles and on the employees' faces, and even those coming in to drop off the toys. So it puts everybody in a good mood. Feels like they're giving back.
It really does. It's something that we enjoy doing from year to year, and our employees are really enthusiastic and energized about this initiative. And yes, you're right. To see the smiles on faces when people bring in the toys and donations that they make, it just warms the heart.
Russell, you're kind of see and make sure these toys get to where they need, at least for Warren Township.
Yes. Yes, the Warren Township Trustee Office got involved with the toy drive through City County Councilman Ben Hunter and his wife, Mrs. Carrie Hunter. And they kind of reached out to our office to help them identify families and to distribute the toys to residents of the East Side. And
you know, it's important that people who donate know that they're getting to the right places. You feel they're getting to the right places. The kid's really in need.
Yes, yes.
You get any feedback from people in your community?
We do, and we've seen a little bit more families are calling us earlier than they have in the past. And so we're just trying to make sure that we get as many families signed up for the toy drive for the Thursday distribution date, which is the distribution date for families that are referred by agencies.
All right. Russell Hollis, glad to see you. They're getting where they need to go. And Greg Sider, thanks for joining us and as always supporting the toy drive.
Oh, you're certainly welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
And that's it for this edition of Indianapolis This Week. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Todd Connor. Have a great day, everyone.